Hello everyone, and welcome to the introduction webinar for the Microsoft Azure Virtual Hackathon 2021, powered by Microsoft and organized by Agorize. So first of all, if you'd like to participate to this challenge and see the challenge platform, you can participate from the link that you see on the slide, or you can also scan the QR code here. Additionally, we'll be having a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat and we'll get back to those a bit later. So welcome. Here's for the introductions of the speakers today. So my name is Hearn. I'm a project manager at Agorize. I'll be giving you a short overview of the challenge and the agenda today. And then we will have Mathew, who is Director Developer Relations APAC at Microsoft, who will talk. Also, we'll have Choi, Developer Product Marketing Manager for Korea at Microsoft, and Sudhir Rawat, Developer Product Marketing Manager for New Zealand at Microsoft, who will also talk during this webinar. So let me give you first an overview of the agenda for today. So first of all, as I said, I'll be introducing Agorize and giving you a brief overview of the hackathon. Then we will have Annie, who will talk about responsible AI. Then Sudhir will be talking about Azure data services. Choi will be talking about Azure AI services. Then Sudhir will go over the problem statements of the hackathon. And finally, we'll answer all your questions in the Q&A session. So first of all, let me introduce Agorize briefly. So Agorize is a company that has now been operating for 9 years. And what we do is that we connect innovators such as yourselves with big corporates such as Microsoft, for example, through online open innovation challenges. Now, to give you a concrete example, when you access the Microsoft Azure Virtual Hackathon platform, this platform is us, it's Agorize that provides this service. So we also have 6 offices throughout the world. So of course we have some in APAC, in Singapore, Tokyo and Hong Kong. We also have 2 in Europe, in Paris and Stuttgart, Germany, and 1 in Canada, in Montreal. So now to go over this hackathon. So first of all, let me explain briefly the timeline. So currently we are in the open call, which will be going on to February the 22nd, where hackers can register, create their teams and submit their solutions. And you have until February 22nd at 11:59 GMT plus 8 to do so. So ensure that you stay within the deadline if you want to submit your solution. Next, we have the deepening phase, which will run from mid-March to mid-April, where up to 200 shortlisted teams will further develop their proof of concepts and will also be able to attend some webinars to have some extra explanations and to guide them further through this hackathon. And then finally, we'll have the pitching day on the week of May the 3rd, where our finalist teams will be pitching their solutions virtually, and we will have more information to come on this pitching day a bit later. Now for the question that everyone is asking themselves, what is at stake and what can you gain by participating in this hackathon? So we have several prizes lined up here. First of all, for the winning teams, so there'll be cash prizes for you, ranging from 5,000 USD for the winning team to 3,000 USD for the first runner-up and 1,000 USD for the second runner-up. Then for all the participants at broader scale, we have also other opportunities for you, so you'll be able to gain visibility by being connected with Microsoft experts. You may also have business opportunities available to you, and of course you'll be able to pitch in front of large and live audiences. Also, we will have more prizes to come later on, so do stay tuned. There will be more exciting things to come for this hackathon. So that's it for my introduction, and now I leave the floor to Mathew to talk about responsible AI. So Annie, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. With great opportunity comes great responsibility. Somebody said that a while back, and that is so true with today. If you go to the next slide, Sarah. The next one. Yes. So this is true for any technology that is life-changing. And underlying AI trust is going to ultimately depend whether people use it, whether governments are able to drive it or have to put tighter regulations around that. So trust is typically, you trust when it is reliable, safe, and consistent and secure. So not only under normal circumstances, but also in unexpected conditions or when they are under attack. If you're sure that there's reliability, safety, and consistency, then people would start trusting AI. And it's important today to understand what will drive trust and what practices and principles can actually help us drive that. So today, as you're looking at this hackathon and thinking about starting to develop applications, also have an eye on how do you make your system trustable, reliable, and safe. Next slide, please. So you might ask, why only for AI? Why is this such a big deal for AI? The fact is that the pace of innovation is so huge now. There's amazing compute and new algorithms and models and technology that's available at your fingertips. And the other part is that its proximity to human intelligence is highly significant. So if you look at how Microsoft has made these advancements from 2016 till 2019, you see we reached object recognition human parity in 2016. In 17, we went on to speech recognition parity. 18, we actually reached machine translation human parity, speech synthesis near human parity, and in 2019, general language understanding human parity. And what is this human parity? If you look at speech recognition human parity or speech synthesis, for example, you will see that if an automated system is saying out something to you, as in you now need to access the next page, and you have a human saying the same thing, you would not be able to make a difference between the two. And that's called human parity, when you just cannot differentiate between something that you're hearing or seeing being human versus automated. Now, that gives us great opportunity, but also brings us a lot of issues regarding our thoughts or concerns regarding privacy and how do I know who I'm talking to and stuff like that. Hence, the practice of responsible AI becomes very important. Next, please. Now, this is today's debate, or from a couple of years back. There have been, any day you pick up the newspaper, you will see a bunch of things around AI. One of the earlier ones which highlighted the need was when you type CEO into Bing search, it would show up a bunch of white male figures. Well, you know that there is a lot of women out there as well. But someone who doesn't know about that looking at this will be biased that, okay, maybe CEO me equals to male and white male. Similarly, in China, the glass doors, police was using the glass doors to do facial recognition and do a lot of good. Actually, they use that on glass walls, on eyeglasses and so on and so forth, and cracked a lot of really hard cases to crack, criminal cases. But on the other hand, it meant people did not have privacy. I mean, the police would know everything about you. Similarly, in healthcare. So there are so many debates going on today around this issue that's important for all of us to work towards creating this responsible AI. Next, please. Now, it's not an easy subject, and we know responsible AI is very complex and it's very broad. The reason being that at every stage of the software development process or the solution development process, there is potential to add bias, there's potential to add insecurity, vulnerability, or even just scale biases into a huge amount. So at every stage of this, from business understanding to data acquisition, to the modeling, to deployment and ops, every stakeholder in this needs to have a view of am I building something with responsibility in mind? Am I making it fair, secure, etc.? So it's not an initiative where you can delegate to people to say, okay, you make sure everything is responsible in this company. It doesn't work like that. Every person in every department and every user even needs to be aware of what does it mean and how do I speak out if I see something wrong. And the company needs to look at systems and processes to make sure we are building things responsibly. And if you go to the next slide, these are the 6 basic principles of AI that Microsoft has put together. And as I told you, this is a very complex topic, so we're sharing what Microsoft does, and hopefully you will be able to pick up in your individual work or your team's work or your org's work and go ahead and do this better. So fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency and accountability. These are the 7 principles which you have to look through when building as a developer or a team lead or as a CIO. Next. Thank you. This is just to show how you should be looking at it. This is a good example of societal bias, and you see that in this formula that the algorithm is building out, it's look at the multiplication factor. So if you're a gender female, there's a 0.14. If you're age group 50 plus, a 0.7, and for a disabled, it's 0.67. So they're building in basis whatever they consider as not a good target audience, and hence building in biases by putting it this multiplication. So these are things you will do as you head into the algorithms, and this is where you need to look at in particular whether you're adding these biases or not. Next slide, please. This is another quick one where this was a model that was being built basis animals or dogs that you're looking at and saying that is it a husky or a wolf. So this is, if it's a husky, it is a adoptable dog, so you can adopt it, and if it's a wolf, you really don't want to take it home. But what happened in this experiment was that this developer actually predicted most of it correctly, but just one was wrong, where he predicted wolf and the truth was that it was a husky. So they went behind and looked at what was driving that mistake and found that the model was actually looking at the background and saying if there is snow, it is wolf, and if there is no snow, it is a husky. So you see where I'm getting to. So you need to look at what your model is basing, what is the data you are aggregating. For example, if you use Fitbit in medical applications, it is a known fact now that white races actually, the Fitbit picks up blood and blood pressure, heartbeat, all of that very well. But for colored races, it does not pick up so well. So there are so many areas where these kind of biases exist, or our devices are not capable of picking up the right data. Next slide, please. So these are some AI practices that you can look at while going about building. When you are at the visioning stage, you look at what are the potential harms that could be introduced by the system. When you're defining it, talk about what criteria does your product have related to each of the principles we talked about, fairness to accountability. Then when you're prototyping, think about how does the data and modeling decisions affect the system? Because a certain type of modeling that you choose will give you high accuracy but less transparency versus the other one. So you have decisions to make. When you're building it, think about the rollout plan that will enable feedback and minimize risk. So it has to be a closed loop system. at launch, you think about, do you have a plan to handle unforeseen issues? Because there will be unforeseen issues. Nothing is 100% true, but what happens when there is as an unforeseen issue? Or how do you have recourse? How do you know about it and things like that? And of course, think of AI products as a living, breathing thing that you go back and keep revising and improving rather than a code once and leave it there thing. So with that, I'll end. I hope you got a quick view into the need to be responsible. I will hand it over to Sudhir Rawat now.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Annie. And I totally agree with you. Your last example, I would imagine, if it is predicted as a husky, and then in reality is a wolf, then somebody will be in danger. So hey guys, this is Sudhir from Microsoft, and what I'm going to talk about is the Azure data services that we have in Azure platform, which eventually is going to help you in some way on your hackathon. So can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, before we get into the data services and the AI services, which my colleague is going to talk to you about, I would like to let you know about Microsoft loves open source, and hence, you will actually find all the popular tools and the frameworks that are available, and hence, you're not restricting yourself to learning the new tools and frameworks, but rather you're going to focus on completing the challenge, thinking of the new innovative ideas, how we can actually solve the problems that we put up in the hackathon, right? Now, if you're working in any of these platforms, you will definitely find it on to the Azure platform, and the worst case is then probably you're going to have for example, a data science VM where you have all your services baked in rather than you are figuring it out how to install and configure all the softwares in your machines, right? Can we move on to the next slide, please? All right. Now, analytics and AI together, it plays a very pivotal role for any organization, and I would say not organization, even in in hackathons or any work that you do in your day-to-day life, right? Being an IT person, right? You can actually go and find a lot of insights from the data and actually make a good decision out of it, and you can take the decision before it can happen, right? And there is a wealth of information that is available. Now, we have this information, but then how we can actually make the good information out of it, right? So you need a good understanding of obviously the data, but then you need to have the platform and the frameworks which are very easy to use and scalable and secure, compliance as well, right? So ultimately, what we want to do is we want to actually gain the insights from the raw data as soon as possible, right? You don't want to spend a lot of time to figure it out, okay, let's bring this tool, learn this tool, and then, for data engineering, I'm going to use this tool, and then for the reporting, I'm going to use this tool, and then, maybe querying the data, I'm going to use this tool. So you don't want to get into all this, right? You want to have everything available for you so that you can quickly spin up, do the analysis, provide the information as quickly as possible to the organizations. So that's the whole idea behind that, right? Now, bringing different frameworks, bringing different tools and technologies in the development world, sometimes, it basically increases the cost, not only by getting those tools and technologies, but then also, maintaining those tools in terms of updating the security patches, updating the different versions of the products, and so on and so forth, right? So we want to be careful about on that area as well. Can we move on to the next slide? Now, having said that, when it comes on to the Azure Advanced Analytics Patterns, I'm just showing one of the examples which basically have all or most of the services which probably you're gonna either use I would say not all, but then you will definitely going to use some of these services depending on what kind of a solution that you're going to bring to solve the problems that we have put for the hackathon. Right now, at very high level, Azure basically completes the entire Lambda architecture. So whether you have the data coming in the real time, whether you want to do some batch analytics, or maybe you want to present the data back to the business users, or maybe you want to do some AI. And obviously, we have the various storage as well available, which basically helps you to store the data. Depending on what kind of a data that you have, right? And what kind of a service that you require from your databases, right? So for example, you have the Cosmos DB, which is geo-replicated multi-tier database available. So you can actually, spin up the database and then enable your geo-replicated options in the database. What that means is, as soon as you've done that on the fly, it's basically going to replicate your database in different regions without you configuring anything, right? So it's automatically taken care of you for behind the scenes, right? Now, similarly, Azure Synapse Analytics, which probably going to use for the data processing, brings the entire suites of different services under the Synapse Studio, which basically helps you to not only bring your data, but also you can do the data engineering, and as well as you can show this data. Now, Azure Synapse Studio will have all this baked in within the one framework, so that you don't have to go out of the framework to build your data engineering capabilities, building your advanced analytics code, or maybe you want to integrate the AI, right? Either you're going to use cognitive services or you're going to use AutoML. Everything is baked in, which basically allows you to, build your solution without you going out of the framework. Now, if you imagine in today's world, if you want to do our data engineering, you will have a different tools. If you want to connect your database, you have a different tools. If you want to write some code on your notebooks, you have a different tools available. For the reporting, you have a different tools. For data integrations or building a data pipeline, you have a different tools, right? Now, what the Synapse Studio does is it basically brings everything in a one framework, so that it will be easy for you to play around and build your solution from within the framework itself. Now, if you're comfortable writing your notebooks in the Databricks, we also have that. Or if you want to have your own Spark cluster or maybe your Hadoop cluster, you can actually leverage SD inside as well. Now, not only that, for the model training, you can actually use the Azure ML workspaces, which comprise of Azure AutoML. It has the ML Studio, which we used to have in the classic version. Then we also have the ML servers, which is running on the VMs. You can leverage Spark ML capabilities, not only the Databricks, but also on the Synapse. Then you have a SQL Server database, data science VM. If you want to do any code that you have written, which you want to run in a compute environment, that's probably where you can use the batch services, right? Now, the whole idea of having all the services in a one single platform actually helps organizations to focus on new innovative ideas, and hence, we recommend you to actually, focus more on the Azure technologies so that you can quickly spin up the services, do the data massaging, build the reports, and don't think about what I'm going to do with the platform or the services. All this will take care of behind the scenes. You just focus on the what innovation that you're going to bring, right? Also, if you want to think about what are the services that we're going to use for the real time. We also have on the top where I mentioned the stream ingestion. We have Event Hubs, IoT Hub, and the Kafka on SD Insights. Now, why do we have different services on the Azure platform? One of the reason is, because when as a developer you are coming onto the Azure, we don't want you to learn new technology. So, for example, you are comfortable writing Kafka code on the open source platform, right? Now, when you're coming onto the Azure, we don't want you to force you to learn IoT Hub or the Event Hub, right? So what you can do is you can have your existing knowledge with you. You can actually go ahead and start using our Azure platform and spin up the Kafka on SD Insight and start leveraging the knowledge that you have with the Azure, right? Now, if you want to go the IoT Hub, Event Hub, or what we call these services as a platform as a service, which it basically helps you, to take care of the infrastructure burden from you, right? In terms of the maintaining it, in terms of scalability, in terms of security of the infrastructure. So everything we will take care of it behind the scenes. You just focus on spinning up the services, and we give you the endpoints, and you can just connect and build your solutions around it. So yeah, so at the end of the day, wherever the data is, whatever data it is, you have the platform available. Now we will leave it up to and your imagination, what you're going to bring onto the table by using any of these services that we offer on the Azure platform. Can we move on to the next slide? So with that, I'll just hand it over to my colleague, Ian.
Thanks a lot, Sudhir, for your great explanation with great insight on, especially with data. So from now, I would like to explain technologies part on Azure AI. But before that, then I would like to thank you again to Sudhir and Annie, because during this hackathon, then what we would like to target is how participants better think about not only for Azure AI technologies, leveraging with Azure AI, but also you can, I expect participants also need to think about responsible AI and also the importance of data. So to implement with great AI, and then not only AI technologies itself is important, but also how to leverage how to get insights from great data, or how to get features from data with insights. And also then when you implement great AI, and then you also need to think about lots of AI issues with ethics and privacy issues, or any kind of philosophical issues. So then that's why then we organize 3 parts. The first part is responsible AI, and the second part is the importance of data. So, and now then I would like to more deep dive into Azure AI part. Okay, yeah, this is a digital feedback loop. So to emphasize how Microsoft thinks with AI. So there are mainly 4 parts: engage customers, empower employees, optimize operations, and transform products. So then Microsoft strongly believes that AI is very helpful to all the human in our world. So for example, then now recently then I see lots of unfortunate issues which are related with some wrong AIs. For example, the AI leveraged with some wrong conversations or illegal conversations, or such kind of things. But instead, and then let's first dig into how AI empowers our greater digital transformation by empowering employees, and also how to better engage customers for digital transformation, and also for greater productivity. And also then let's think about how we better change our world with better transformation, optimization, and also then how we optimize our product delivery from product manufacturing into delivery stuff like packaging box, and then delivery from one country to another country in Asia Pacific. So all the kind of things are related with digital loop. And then today, then I just want to emphasize the importance of digital loop related with business, because then during this Azure AI Hackathon, then we are targeting 5 different business sectors. So would you please go to next? So yeah, for such digital feedback loops, and then intelligence and system experiences are interconnected each other. So that's why AI is very important. So when you think about your own idea on each problem statement area, then please think about how AI can be more helpful for greater intelligent things, and also how we improve system and experiment things with AI. And then also relating with actual customers and employees working in many companies, and also optimization problems, and also how we better changes our product with digital transformation would be very great. Please go to next. In Azure AI, then there are so Azure AI in Azure AI, then I would like to emphasize just three things. The first thing is that what are on your terms? For example, that what is your greater definition to leverage AI with Azure? So then to do this, then you need to think about your business first. Then defining your own problem statement would be very important. And the second thing is then we would like to expect more greater idea and brilliant idea to see how AI helps mission critical problems in the world. For example, then in each area, then there are real actual issues, business issues. So then, but for generalists like me, and then I don't know all the detailed issues on each business sector. So in that case, and then some experts on each business domain would be very needed with their great insight, and also then how we from raw data, then we might need to consider how such raw data is meaningful for business problems. So then for such things, and then to solve with mission critical problems, then we need to think about business stuff. And the final one is responsible AI. Responsible is that AI needs to be ethical. For example, that AI should not harm on privacy issues. For example, and also the AI should not harm on any kind of political issue, specific political issues or some ethical issues. So then considering such three things would be great. And would you please go to next? So then this is the general portfolio for Microsoft AI. So Azure AI actually empowers to also Power Platforms and actual applications. But for this, during this Azure AI Hackathon, then we just to say the Power Platform and applications are for business users. And so we would like to see more concrete implementations and prototypes using Azure AI. Next. So then also then just one note, the Power Platform is very great for citizen developers who are not familiar with development stuff. But I would like to just emphasize on Azure AI for all developers and data scientists who are participating on this hackathon. Next. So then actually Azure AI is consists of three different parts. The first thing is the AI powered applications. So this part is for the users who are mainly thinking about how we can implement AI applications with existing AI or by customizing a little bit on AI. And the second step is knowledge mining, how we get a great insight from the data, as you mentioned. And the third one is machine learning, how we train using the data. So next. For AI-powered apps, and then Azure AI would like to emphasize mainly two parts. The first thing is the Azure Cognitive Services, and the second one is Azure Bot Service. Azure Cognitive Services mainly target to provide the result of cognitive mind already trained from Azure, but you can also customize from existing cognitive knowledge from Azure. On the other hand, Azure Bot Service mainly targets to implement your own chatbot with your own great knowledge, because now chatbot is mainly used for conversational AIs. Next. Yeah, for Azure Cognitive Services, and then for the details, and then it can be divided into 4 parts: the vision, speech, language, and decision. So then before my speak today, then I asked on the chat window that which technologies are interested, and then just one guy replied that, oh yeah, AI applications on vision is quite interested, and then he suggested great idea, whether, for example, that I'm moving my eyes, because I'm I'm speaking, so and I'm seeing the slide, but for participants, for example, that we are not sure whether participants are really seeing well on our presentations or not. So yeah, the guy would like to dig into this idea. I really love this idea, but just I want to mention is that some additional thinkings related on privacy issues. For example, that can such captured data identify a specific customer or specific person or not? Such thinking would be really great. So anyway, then vision is really great to see insights from images itself or movies or cameras, from cameras, and then to figure out faces or to figure out some additional context. For example, seeing the video or seeing the image, and then for example, oh yeah, this for the image, and then there is one car, old car, or the one guy is playing sports, or the another female is playing music, or another female is won great Olympic games, or like this. And also then vision provides form recognizer to identify text. For example, the handwriting text to convert from handwriting text images to convert with actual text. And also video indexer is very helpful since video is very long, usually very long, then so all the human cannot see all the video parts, but video indexer provides the general insight from by identifying the video from AI. And speech targets to identify to convert speech to text. For example, then my speaking is not perfect because I'm not a English native speaker. But however, if I speak in English right now, and then if you turn on text subtitling on PowerPoint, and then I could see my transcription very well. This is really great, powered by Azure AI. But you can also use this API right now by leveraging speech API. And also then vice versa, then text-to-speech is also supported, and also translation and speaker recognition, who is speaking is well supported. And also then it requires some the detailed issues on language issues by understanding the context of each language. I'm actually a Korean native speaker, so that in Korean and in English there are some differences on grammars, and also some differences on the order of subject and verbs and objects. So then language, for example, that Luis language understanding implementations on Azure supports them better understanding on, for example, which part is noun, or which part is object, and then how such results are related to each other for greater AI. And this would be very helpful to implement with Q&As using Q&A Maker, or then you can better analyze with text analytics. And finally, decision part is very helpful to define your own decision tree using AI. So there are many decision-making issues. For example, which things I should eat right now because I'm hungry. In that case, and then Azure AI can also help to support such decision makings. And Azure AI supports 3 different parts on it. The first one is anomaly detector, which identifies some anomalous situation, and also personalizer is for personal decisions, and also then there are content moderator APIs. Next. Yeah. for the details, and then Azure Bot Service, also the Azure Bot Service is very helpful to implement with conversational AI. So then if participants would like to dig on how conversational AI would be very helpful on each area that problem statement area, then please think about Azure Bot Service. Next. And knowledge mining supports then how we search from lots of data on the internet, and also then from lots of data with Azure Search. So then it supports then it provides to get great insight from all of your content. So then this is very also great for knowledge mining. So then if you would like to think about on a specific data and then get your own insight, and then using knowledge mining is also would be a great idea. Next. Yeah, and machine learning is for your customized build, building on your machine learning models, and then Azure supports for all skilled machine learning level guys, including Azure MLOps. And so then go next, please. Yeah, this is one example on Azure machine learning service on the top of Azure, and then on the top of Azure, then it really integrates well with your Python implementation or an R language or and so on. And then it also supports your experiment-based computation on using GPU, and then it also supports AutoML, and also then Microsoft also supports great thing to distinguish or to figure out whether some data is too much biased or not on by using fair-learn library. So then this such things would be very great to train your own model with your own data. And go next. And MLOps would be very helpful. So in reality, then there are lots of data scientists and also IT professionals and also lots of modelers to think about machine learning. But in reality, then their collaboration has not been easy. For example, then even for modelers, and then some modelers just use TensorFlow, or other modelers just to use PyTorch, then they don't want to collaborate each other. So there are many things to collaborate each other. So MLOps is one great step to collaborate among them each other. So Azure supports great MLOps stuff with Azure DevOps or GitHub Actions. And next. And responsible ML is what I previously mentioned slightly on fairness on AI. So the Azure already integrated how to detect whether some data is biased or not using fair-learn library. And next. And finally, the open and interoperable means that, as I briefly mentioned, and then using TensorFlow, using PyTorch, and then for such modelers, and then interoperability would be very important, and Onyx supports really well for interoperability. And for languages, and Python and R are really great, and for development tools, and then you can also leverage Jupyter Notebook on the top of Azure Machine Learning Service, and also integrating with your experience with Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code will be really great. Next. Yeah, so then for Azure AI, then I explained the three parts: Azure AI, Power Devs, knowledge mining, and machine learning. And then one thing I couldn't mention for today is that for APIs, and then for example, custom, for example, especially vision, then you can also add your own data, and then you can leverage with custom AI or custom vision AI on to build your AI Power Devs. So, or then you can even leverage with your own models by with your own training effort using machine learning part. Next. So yeah, this is the end of my part, and then I really hope to see really great implementations through this AI. And then please check out those resources, which would be great. And thank you for listening. And then next time, then Sudhir will talk on problem statements.
All right, thank you so much, Ian. Great to know all the capabilities that we have, and I hope it'll give a fair understanding of to the participants which services they're going to use. So let's talk about the problem statement that we have put up in this virtual hackathon. Now, last year we also did this virtual hackathon, and then during that time we put up the problems from the organization itself. But this time, because of COVID-19 hits many industry, so we thought let's bring the problem from the industry and see what are the innovative ideas that the community can come up with, right? So we're going to talk more in detail specific to these problems in the next session as well. But at a very high level, we are actually covering various industries like banking and finance, telecommunication, education, health tech. And we also, giving an option as for a wildcard, which I'll talk about very briefly in a sec. Now, if you go to the website and if you read about the challenges that we have put up for the different industry, one thing that you will notice that it's in a problem that we have given, and we haven't given any kind of a data sets for you to look into to build this solution, right? Now, one of the reason is we don't want to restrict your imaginations, and hence we said, here's the problem that, for example, if you look at the banking and finance, because of the COVID-19 economic slowdown, there are some problems with respect to the loan defaulters in a banking system, right? So how you can actually help that industry, so that they can proactively get to know, and as well as, if it is possible, what are the solutions, for the banking to help them to identify those defaulters, or maybe come up with solutions which can help them to overcome that, right? It could be giving an extension, or maybe helping them with more finance. If you think, if the data says, they eventually has the potentials to grow on the business, right? Similarly, for the telecommunication, if you look, we're basically looking for how actually the telecommunication industry can monetize the 5G network that are coming up. I mean, in some of the countries it's already there, right? So how actually telecommunication can monetize that, right? So you can actually think about from any angle, maybe not only the software. You think there could be some hardware which can actually help. Bring it on. We are happy to see what you have, what are the thought process that you have, and what are the innovations that you're going to bring for these industry to overcome those challenges. Now, similarly, education, you have seen all of the kids, get into the house arrest, I would say, because even in my home, when the COVID-19 is happening, the kids are inside the home, and they are actually leveraging various tools and technologies to keeping up on their studies, right? Now, how we can actually come and look into various solutions where we can actually help by bringing maybe different technologies, or maybe bringing the data to basically suggest that what can be done in the education system by utilizing the different technologies. Maybe you want to stitch those technologies together. Maybe you want to have some cool idea, right? I'm just giving you some of the examples. You don't want to have to go into that. And I'm very cautious when I'm talking about the examples, because I don't want to think on those directions, and I'm very much interested for you not to think about only one dimension. Look from the different dimensions. Have a discussion with your team. Think about what innovation that you are actually bringing, right? which is not available in the market, or maybe, you know, which is, if it is available, but that you are actually bringing something unique, which is not existing available, right? Similarly, if you look for the health tech, how you can actually bring not only the data which is available in the clinic, but can you get the data from different sources as well to basically help the health industry with the technologies to overcome some of the problems that we have mentioned over there. Now, because we only cover few industry, we thought it will be good to provide the wildcard as well, right? And what that means is, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to restrict your imagination, the innovation that you want to bring in, right? That's where the wildcard is there, right? You can actually, if you have a very cool idea that you can think, hey, this technologies can help in this particular industry, which is going to be, you know, very cool. Bring it on. We are happy to hear. We are happy to see that what kind of innovation that you want to bring in, right? It could be any technologies, any hardware that you want to bring on. But if it is something very cool, we are open to hear that. Okay. So these are the various industries and the problem that we have put it on the website. You can refer the website to look into the more details. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're looking for any specific data, I mean, there are data sets available. Maybe, for example, if you go to the Azure open data sets, or maybe you you know, just Bing for the various open source data sets, you will actually get a lot of data sets. Having said that, if you think that you can actually generate some of the dummy data, yeah, we are happy to look into that as well. You know, go ahead and just create the dummy data, right? Now, another example could be, you know, if you think that, you know, you want to do something with the Raspberry Pi, you know, to send some events to the cloud, and if you don't have a Raspberry Pi at your home, you probably want to look for, you know, online simulator. If you search for the Microsoft Raspberry Pi or Microsoft Azure Raspberry Pi, something like that, if you Bing for that, you will actually get in a simulator, which basically you can provide the connection string of your IoT hub, and then you can provide what is the event data that you want to send it, right? And then it will basically continually send the data to the cloud, right? And then you can do your analytics further on. So the whole point is, you don't need the field is open, right? Don't put boundary on your imaginations. Think what you can bring onto the table is an open for all of you. So yeah, that's all from my side on the problem statement, and probably we're going to talk about more in details in the next session. So I think I'll hand it over to Sarah.
Thank you, and thank you all of you for your very interesting explanations and insights. So now we'll be moving to the Q&A. So just as a quick reminder to the people who are joining this webinar today, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the Q&A chat. So I'll start with reading the first question that we have from Harshavardhan, which is there going to be a recording of this webinar? So the answer to this, I'll answer, is yes. The webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared on the Hackathon platform later on. So that was for our first question. And then next from Nad, which is a very interesting question. So his question is it possible for AI to detect COVID-19 by the sound of our cough? So I think I'll hand this over to our AI experts. So Annie, Ian and Sudhir, if you have any insights on this, feel free to share.
Yeah, probably I'll take this one. It's very interesting. And if you look onto the AI or the machine learning technologies, it's all about, you know, the data that you have and how you actually use the either existing algorithm, or you build the algorithm your own, you know, to train your models to detect the patterns, right? So it's all about the sound. But the answer is, you know, it's yes. It can doable, but right now, if we have any cognitive services to do that, the answer is no. We don't have it yet. Any cognitive services.
And to add from Sudhir's great answer and comments, and then I also add some perspective on this part. Currently, then COVID-19 situation is very unfortunate pandemic situation in the world. In that case, and then in my opinion, then capturing data would not be very easy. So what I mean is that currently, then I would like to ask participants to start from beginning point of view. For example, then can we detect whether someone got a cold or not by identifying the sound or not, using with your friends or who got a cold or not? Because then I'm worried about how we capture the data. Because then AI cannot be possible without collecting lots of without gathering lots of data, and then data also needs to be converted into your great own insight. So I think it's very interesting approach, but I wonder that how we capture great amount of data to convert with your great insight and also creating to create your own model.
If I may use that to share the general principle in winning hackathons. So you can do a lot of things with algorithms and stuff and get the right data. But the question then again will be about validating that you're building the right solution, and do spend time in the beginning. Just this case in point of from the sound of would be a quick put to an asking this: can you detect COVID-19 by the sound of your cough? Most probably no, right? Because there are types of cough, and there are more tests to be done to determine whether it is COVID or not. So I would say that this is a great way to think about it. So for the winning solutions, technology demonstration is there, but also are you solving the right problem, and are you ensuring that the solution is validated by some experts or something, are all things to look at.
Okay, thank you very much.
And one more thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, that's on a lighter note. Don't just go to people who have COVID, to collect the cough, their cough sounds. Don't get COVID yourself, right? So just be aware of that.
Okay, thank you for your answer to this question. So next we'll be moving to our next question, which is from Anonymous. Are there any restrictions on participating countries, or is it only open to participants from those 16 countries? And the answer is yes. You must be currently located in one of the 16 countries in order to participate in the challenge. And as a quick reminder, the countries that are eligible here are Bangladesh, Bhutan, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Korea, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Nepal, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. And you can feel free to check on the platform if you need a reminder, as this is quite a long list. So next question, which is, to what extent do we have to include the Azure services in our solution? So again, I think I'll let the experts answer this question. So Sudhir, Ian, and Annie. Sudhir, maybe you want to answer that?
Sure. Obviously, it's in a Microsoft Hackathon, so we love to see all the Azure services. How you actually, stitch all the different services that we have onto the cloud to bring this solution. So, yeah, I mean, we would love to see all of our Azure services on the cloud. Now, from the programming platform perspective, you might be, leveraging, for example, Eclipse for Java development, or maybe you're using your own Python editor, which is okay, which is fine. But at the end of the day, you need to have your solutions deployed onto the Azure. So the more services that you use on the Azure, it will be good.
Yeah, to add from Sudhir's comment, and then all the parts I mentioned on Azure AI can be a good part for you to add on Azure services. So any one service or multiple services leveraging on Azure AI part would be a great idea.
Okay, thank you very much. So to the next question, which is for the deliverables, do we need to create a video walkthrough to explain our solution along with the slides? So the answer to this is it's nice to have. So if you want to create it, by all means, go ahead. However, it is not required at this stage. And then for the next question we have, what is the best way to ensure people about their privacy while using AI? So how do we ensure that people maintain a certain level of privacy while using AI? So again, I think I'll ask this to our experts. So Annie, maybe do you want to take this question?
Yeah, so the question is, what's the best way to ensure people about their privacy while using AI? You're talking about, I don't have any more details here, so I assume the two aspects to this. One is the developer to build privacy, to ensure you are securing privacy. So for that, you make sure that all the personally identifiable information is not being collected if it's not necessary, and if it's collected, it is masked and not shared and things like that. On the other hand, for people to ensure they are having privacy, I think to a large extent, there was this case in Canada about in a mall, there was this big directory, and people were using it to find which store to go to, and they didn't know that their privacy was being compromised because there was a camera which was doing face recognition and saying, capturing information about the gender, what stores they're looking at, choosing, etc. So sometimes it's not evident as to how much your privacy is being protected, and that is why this is a field where regulations are evolving as it happens. So for apps that we use, we can always go, and it's so lengthy, it's hard to read and understand how are they protecting your privacy. So this is not an area that is easy, and a lot of work is being done. Microsoft, along with many 80 other organizations, have created a consortium, and we're working through these things. We put out one guiding principle on facial recognition in 2018. Saying that it should not be used for unwarranted stuff, etc. So for users, it's hard. Yeah, so I think regulations will have to come into play to make it easier. Sudhir, if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, just to add one more point over there, I just posted a link. Just read out about the ethics and the guidelines for the responsible AI. Which will actually, help you to understand how you can actually, look into while, what data that you're collecting, how you're preserving that information. So I would highly recommend you, even not for this challenge, but if you're working on the machine learning or the AI side of the world, I would highly recommend you to go through that articles and, get yourself educated on the ethics and the responsibility on the AI side.
Yeah, just to add from Sudhir's comment, and then I also put one link on Microsoft Learn, which would be very great for participants to read out how Microsoft Responsible AI thinks about all parts of ethical things, including privacy, as Sudhir mentioned, including guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much for answering this question. So for the next one, we have questions on the submission. So again, regarding the submission, so yes, you can. So the question is, can we include links to the apps, or is there a particular format expected? And can we include a video demonstrating the data pipeline? So again, it's a similar answer to the one for the last question. You need to submit the slides. For the rest, it's optional. So if you would like to submit it, please feel free to, but it's not required at this point. Then for the next question, what do you mean by team complementarity in the scoring criteria? So maybe Ian, you would maybe want to answer this question, or Sudhir? How would you evaluate team complementarity?
Sudhir, would you explain?
Yeah, this is, I'll take this. This is more about how your team is formed. For example, a diverse team actually comes up with more ideas. So we are really encouraging you to form diverse teams with diversity of thinking as well, and think about forming how you would form a team. And if there is a good technical data science expert, do you have another design, UX design expert? So think about team formation from that sense. And if it's healthcare, do you have somebody with a healthcare domain knowledge? So that's what is meant by team complementarity.
Yeah, to add from Annie's comment, and then we would like to really see how each participant collaborate together as a one team. So the Microsoft really empowers all the participants to achieve more by organizing with your great team.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Annie, for answering this question. So for our next one, it's also on the judging. A question from Mathew, which is, how will our suggested solution, be judged? So the answer to this is there will be a few criteria that will be used to base the evaluation of your project. So the criteria to evaluate the project will be feasibility of the solution, that will be graded on 5 points. Then best use of the Azure APIs on 5 points too. Complexity to implement the solution, also on 5 points. Then originality, also 5 points. The solution architecture with Azure on 10 points. As we said, team complementarity, which will be on 5 points. And then if you have specifically tackled an industry problem, you'll have extra points for that as well. Then for the next question, it is the necessary technology in our solutions right? Can we use other technologies such as Azure Data Services or Azure Network Services? So I think I will hand this to our experts again. So maybe Sudhir, do you maybe want to answer this?
Yes. Yeah, you can, you can leverage any of the Azure services as a part of your solutions. We don't put any restriction that you have to use only one service. You feel free to use whatever services that you feel is relevant for your solution on Azure. Go ahead and use it.
And to add from Sudhir saying, then we would like to more see your own architecture decision making. For example, then why you chose such architecture and which kind of technologies you leveraged for great implementation. So such consideration would be very encouraged, and also then for comparison on your own architecture, for example, then data science virtual machines should be also fine. But I also would like to see then why you chose such solutions on the top of Azure. So then such mentioning would be really great.
Okay, thank you very much for this question. And then we have one final question before we close the Q&A. The question is from Liliani. Do you have any tips for creating our own data set? So again, I'll pass this over to our experts.
For me, then I want to mention that when you create your own data set, and there are also many researches on how to create arbitrary data or anonymized data. But what I want to mention is that you also need to really definitely think about some privacy issues. Then I now see that some data sets are unfortunately a little bit a little bit contains privacy data, or then some data is a little bit biased. So then when you create your own data set, then please think about whether your data contains some potential ethical issues or not, or for example, it contains privacy things or not, and also whether your data is too much biased to a specific criteria or not.
Thank you.
All right. Can I add one more point, if that's okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, when I used to work as a developer, I've also seen, this as a challenge. And one of the tips that I would like to give for the folks who are thinking to bring or creating their own data sets is, if you look at a data set, it has two parts. One, you have the actual data, and the another one with the schema, which is associated with that particular data, right? Now, you can generate your data by writing any console application, right? You're probably going to put up a loop and generate the data, right? However, the most important part is the schema, right? So, for example, I'll just take a very basic example. If you're dealing with the education industry and you're getting the class data, so you need to actually think about what the schema is going to look like, which I'm going to use in my solution, right? So you have a class, what all columns of data which is required. Now, once you have your schema ready, which is going to be useful, then it will be super easy for you to write on a console application to generate the data of different data types, right? It could be an integer, it's going to be a string, it could be a float, and so on and so forth, right? So my recommendation is to think about the schema that you're going to use it to build your solution, which is going to be relevant for your solution. And then you can actually, easily generate. So most of the time, you're probably going to think about the schema part of it. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much, Sudhir. Okay, that's a wrap up now for our Q&A. So thank you all our speakers for your interesting insights and also for our audience for the interesting questions and the active participation. So now to wrap up quickly, I want to introduce you to our next webinars to come for this hackathon. So on January 27th, we will have Intro to AI Datasets and Tools and Microsoft's Philosophy to AI. Then on February the 5th, we'll have another webinar on demo of development and deployment of large datasets using AI. And we'll have another final webinar on February the 18th, which will be an interactive Q&A session. Okay, so that's it for today's webinar. So thank you everyone for attending, for your questions, and to all our speakers for your insights and explanations. So as we said, if you want to participate on this challenge, feel free to reach out, connect to the platform and register there. You can use the QR code on this slide as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.